Okay, so here we have the manipulative portfolio number 5, and so we had to solve three problems involving decimal fractions. The first problem was an addition problem, 3.42 plus 4.69, and we had to use manipulatives of base 10 blocks. Then the other two problems were subtraction problems. These problems were 7.35 minus 2.67. We had to pick a manipulative of our choice, and we had to use the takeaway model. And then the second problem was 2.58 minus 1.32 using hierarchical materials and using the comparison model. And so here we have in Mathagon those files. Here we have in Manipulatives portfolio number 5. So first we will start with the addition problem. So here we have the full problem. We have 3.42 plus 4.69 using base 10 blocks, and this here is the key. So this represents a value of 1, meaning 1 ones place. Then here we have the 0.1 value, and this represents the 10th value of a decimal value. And then we have 0.01 representing the 100th value of a decimal value. And so here we have 3.42 plus 4.69 represented by these two portions here. And so what I first had to do was I had to regroup. So what I first did was I organized the ones values into a section. Here we have 7 sections. And then I had the decimal here representing the decimal values. And here are the original values. I reorganized those so then that way they would be a little bit more organized. And so here, when we combine the two values of 0.4 and 0.6, that adds up to a whole value of 1. And so we are left with a remainder of 1/10 and 1/100th. And so when we put everything together in the final regrouping process, we have 8 one-place values and then 0.11. And so your answer is 8.11. Next, we will look at the second problem, which is the first subtraction problem. And this here is 7.25 minus 2.67 using any choice of manipulatives and using the takeaway model. And so here we have the same key representing the same values. And so here we have 7.35 minus 2.67. And so what I first had to do here was I had to know the answer and how I would regroup the values when subtracting. And so here I did a problem just in the standard algorithm of 7.35 minus 2.67. And after regrouping these values, I finally came to the answer of 4.68. And so what I had to do then was that since I knew I had to regroup, this is what I did. The shaded values here is what I eliminated from this complete value here, otherwise known as taking away. And so here I knew that we had to already take away one value set. And so we removed one of these 7 values and we added it to the 10th value of the decimal place. Just because I knew that 15 minus 7 would result in 8. And so I had to use an extra 10th value place in the 100th value place. And so through this process, I was able to determine that these values here resulted in 6/10ths and 8/100ths. And finally down here, after regrouping and making sure that all of my takeaway methods were correct, I ended up with 4.68 as the final answer. Now moving on to the final problem with hierarchical materials. Here we have the starting problem. If I can zoom in. There we go. All right, so we had to do the problem 2.58 minus 1.32 using hierarchical materials and using the comparison method. So here we have the original equation first starting off in hierarchical materials. 2.58 minus 1.32. And so, using the comparison method, I had to have two representations of hierarchical materials. And so we have 2.58 minus 1.32. And so what we did was that we crossed out each of the values that we would compare against, thus leaving us the result of 2.58 minus 132, or 1.32 equals 1.26.